A member of one of the most famous Japanese pop groups, TUYU, was just arrested 3 weeks ago for stabbing his underage girlfriend in her sleep. This news is currently breaking Japan, as TUYU is considered one of the most legendary Japanese bands to ever exist. If you're any bit into Japanese music, you've definitely heard of one of these songs before, as they've completely taken over pop culture, or at least until now. These songs are being completely erased from Japan as we speak. Rhythm games, karaoke,
and mobile games
are desperately erasing any proof that they were ever associated with the name TUYU. Why did their producer stab this underage girl? What is the future of this group going to look like? How did he write lyrics 5 years ago that would warn us of this very incident? The truth is, all of these questions can be answered by looking at the very same songs that took over Japan's charts. It's just, by the time the listeners realized, it was far too late. This video will not be monetized, as this is the tragic story of TUYU. TUYU was a group that formed in 2019 with 3 members, Mei, Mito, and Pusu. Pusu's real name is Yano Saya. He was born May 23rd, 1994, which will become a very relevant date later in this video. By the time he'd reached high school, he'd just fallen in love with guitar. And by fallen in love, I mean fallen in love. He started practicing 20 hours a day. Eventually, he became so obsessed that he dropped out of high school just to pursue music. He kept mindlessly practicing, rapidly getting better and better. And by the time he was 18 in 2012, he was already making a name for himself. Around this time, vocaloid was getting very popular in Japan, with which came an opportunity for him to get his foot out the door. He started producing vocaloid songs under the name ZIPS, uploading his songs to Nico Nico, a Japanese video sharing service kind of similar to YouTube. Later that year, one of his songs, Hey Say Cataclysm, reached 100,000 plays, which quickly put him in the Nico Nico Vocaloid Hall of Fame. It may sound insignificant because Nico Nico and Vocaloid aren't as relevant in the West. If it helps, think of it as your first big song instantly going viral all over TikTok. Anyway, with his success, he formed a series of songs as a group known as Hey Say Project, and they released their first album in 2014 called White Noise. People loved this album, not only because it consisted of some of the best names in Vocaloid, but mainly because of the raw lyrics produced by Pusu. People really resonated with how dark and unfiltered these lyrics were, and is undoubtedly a key factor in his rapid rise to fame, but whether that's for the better or worse, however, I cannot yet say. In 2015, he released an album called ZIPS, using this opportunity to change his name to Pusu, which is what we all know him now as today. From here, he did a lot of work around Japanese pop, focusing on a duo group between him and an artist called Mia, creating a group called Mia Pusu. This group showed people that Pusu was also a very good singer. He was able to bring his lyrics to life in a way that listeners had never heard before. People really resonated with it. From here, he was only getting bigger and bigger. Paychecks started rolling in, he bought nicer things, and indulged a bit in the usual celebrity stuff. But all the meanwhile, we could still see him putting a lot of attention into his music. Continued this way until about 2019, when Heisei Project released their final work called Heisei Sayonara Bye Bye. Definitely a fitting name for the occasion. The reasoning for this is because at this point, the Japanese calendar had just switched from Heisei to Reiwa. Pusu took this chance to end his project. Shortly after, on his birthday, May 23rd, he retired as a singer. This is the first hint that we get that Pusu is very calculated about everything he does. Everything he does always happens at a specific date. I mean, he clearly named this the Heisei Project with the intent to end it as the Heisei period would come to an end 5 years later. And then, just a few weeks after retiring on his birthday, the group that we all know and love, TUYU, was formed. The name TUYU means rainy season in Japanese, which is not only because this group started at the beginning of Japan's rainy season, but it would also be the start of Pusu's own rainy season. The lyrics of the first song tell the whole story, so strap in, because we are going to dive into a very dark place. TUYU posted their first song the same day the group formed, dubbed It's Raining After All. Something important to note about all of TUYU's songs is that they're all portrayed through a certain fictional character. Many of the songs, when tied together, form a storyline to the involved characters. It actually goes way deeper than this video can ever hope to cover, so we're just going to stick to what's related to the stabbing. This first song follows a character named Ame, and as you will come to realize, this character is a deep portrayal and embodiment of Pusu. If we look at this song as not just lyrics, but as a record of Pusu's thoughts and emotions, we get a very eerie result. It's not so bad under this umbrella, but it's causing me not to think. Whose fault is that? But it's raining after all. I have been soaked by it since so long ago that I have gotten used to it. The only thing that gets me through it is putting on a tough face. While these lyrics are only a gross overview of this entire song, it sets the expectations for how we should view rain from here on out. Pusu is used to it because it's something he's been soaked in for such a long time, but he now yearns to avoid it. He seeks the comfort of an umbrella, shielding him from a heavy downpour. Yet underneath the umbrella, he finds himself complacent, unable to think. He's trapped at a point where in one outcome, he gets soaked, much like he used to. Where he takes the shelter of an umbrella, being protected by the rain, but being unable to think and grow. The song being called It's Raining After All, alongside hints from lyrics, goes to show that the rain was completely unexpected. The weather forecast said it wouldn't rain, so although he was not prepared, the rain ultimately fell nonetheless. So what exactly is this rain in Pusu's life? Whatever it is, this is the same rain that would tie into their final song, released just 1 month before the stabbing. If we want to figure out how it all ties together, we need to do a deep dive in the one place he makes his life public, Twitter. Growing through, there's a lot of clear passion for guitar and music that he makes the central focus of his tweets. But when you look past that, you see something unexpectedly dark. In 2016, he posted a picture of a cop pulling him over while he was in a taxi. The taxi had run a red light, and frustrated, he writes, "I've had really bad luck this year, haven't I?" It seems normal on the surface, but when you read the replies, you realize that something is off. He replies to the tweet saying, I don't feel like I'll be alive next year. That's a bit grimmer than you would expect a famous person to outright say on Twitter. But as mentioned, there are plenty other melancholic, depressing tweets. And by scrolling through them, it becomes clear that this guy's been going through a mental battle for a long time. This is the rain that he's been talking about in his songs. He's so used to getting soaked, but he's not sure if he can take it much longer. But hey, there's a couple of happy tweets too. He posted this around Christmas time saying, "I found a super pretty illumination in front of the station. Today is a good mood." And here is the attached picture. Anyway, later in his tweets, he begins to reveal more information about his personal life that we haven't seen before. He says that he borrowed and never returned about 3 million yen from his parents, which at the time was about $30,000. He was barely able to eat every day as he lived in a cockroach-infested house that cost about $200 rent. He says that as he got more money, he began to get less creative and less happy. And that's when everything begins to make sense in the song. It rains after all. The umbrella is what he was able to purchase to protect him from the rain that has soaked him all his life. He was only able to afford this umbrella after the fame rolled in, and while he may not be getting soaked anymore, it still rains nonetheless. The issues are still there. He is still unhappy despite having this umbrella, as he is now losing his creativity. Because the song is also about a relationship, as seen through lyrics like these, I think the umbrella could also represent some of the girls that he was with. This makes sense too, because alongside him finally getting money, he's able to pursue relationships a lot easier. So maybe by stabbing this underage girl he was with, he felt as if he was finally able to put this umbrella down, allowing himself to get consumed by the rain once again. This may sound like a reach for now, but as we continue to listen to more songs, the stabbing only begins to make more sense. 2019, November 13th, 5 months and 1 day later, TUYU releases a new song called "I'm Getting on a Bus to the Other World." This song establishes a new character called the Bus Girl, part of a whole different story in a whole different universe. Remember how I said that Pusu forms a prophecy within his own lyrics? Well, as you're about to see, if you look past these characters and you look directly at Pusu himself, you'll realize that he's written himself into these lyrics. I can't count the number of lives I ruined when I was young. I'd smile while I buried another life before heading home. Looking back now, I should have been the first one to die. I mean, I know we can't take these lyrics literally because at the time of them being made, there were no reports of Pusu killing anybody yet. However, in the context of the crime scene, these lyrics become something entirely different. If we look at what was stated on the news, we can see in the police report that Pusu first planned to stab the girl to death first, then end his own life immediately after, which perfectly follows the idea that he should have been the first one to die instead. So cheerful despite the gloomy atmosphere. I've lost my will to live. Life is just needlessly nothing. Nothing but meaningless wrinkles and creases. My heart pointlessly laments this hopelessness. Take on life, spitting out ideals that just hurt my ears. It's just as if he's so hurt, he's so afflicted by this rain that he's simply able to toss aside any of his ideals just to commit this crime. As he says later, what value is there to a life that wants to end? Am I just being selfish? I don't even know what to think. In the end, after a few years, I'll just be a nuisance. So just stab me, just kill me and take my life away. Is there any meaning in a life that just wants to end? There's none. I'm getting on a bus to another world. See ya. The song ends with the girl eventually taking her own life and going to the other world. These lyrics, after seeing the incident on the news, just sent a chill down my spine. It's almost as if he had prepared a response to all the questions that would come 5 years later. While there are certainly multiple ways of perceiving the song, the fact that in one sentence, we can see, after a few years, I'll just be a nuisance, so just stab me, is enough for me to feel that this crime in particular isn't just random. It wasn't some unpredictable result that came from a sudden surge of emotions. It was an outcome of pent-up emotions, that of which were written into the songs 5 years prior. Knowing that he was planning to die after stabbing the girl only validates the reflection of the bus song within Pusu. He willingly tried to ride the bus that would take him to his death. And the real story scarily complements the lyrics of the song. But why did Pusu hesitate in the end to take his own life? If the bus girl story was meant to be his ending, well, as it turns out, this is not the end of the bus girl story. 2 years following the sequel of the bus song, a new song was suddenly created, if there was an endpoint. Released October 9th, 2021. The song takes place after the events of the bus song. The lyrics serve to tell the rest of the story after the bus girl goes to the afterlife. And this is where things get wild. If there was an endpoint, if I could only have one wish, would you let me go down into the world and let me start all over again? Despite her resolution to take her own life, the girl then realizes that this does not create an endpoint for the lives that she's ruined. This endpoint cannot even be found in the world of death. Everything that she had done was for nothing, so she starts yearning for another chance to go back. If there was really no endpoint, I'll be like this forever. Will the tears keep overflowing? I know I regret it. The lyrics are that of Pusu warning himself that by taking his own life, he'll never be able to change. He'll just be in a constant cycle of regret, yearning for a second chance that he'll never be able to get. If there was an endpoint, can you save me? Those words I want to disappear. There is no guarantee that it will not be used. Even so, I won't be getting on the bus to run away, because that hasn't solved anything. When it's too late and the bus girl has already gone to the other world, She then realizes the pointlessness of the bus. If there really was no endpoint at the bus's destination, then there is no reason to ride it in the first place. She refuses to ever ride the bus again, now that it's too late. In the context of the crime scene, this song brings by far the most evidence that it was not random. Pusu knew not only what he was going to do, but how it would make him feel. He realizes that even if he takes his own life, there won't be any particular resolution to all of this. He refuses to ever ride the bus again, but now it's too late. It would still rain every day for the countless lives he ruined, and no matter what came to be, he would ultimately regret dying. It's crazy to think that without the endpoint song, he may not have chosen to continue to live. In fact, he would be dead as we speak. By the way, do you remember how I mentioned that many of these TUYU'S songs are actually tied together? Well, the endpoint song may have served as the ultimate spiderweb for many of TUYU'S characters. As it turns out, the 3 songs that we just looked at actually serve as different routes for the characters within pusu's universe. The rain song shows the endpoint of ditching the umbrella and pushing through the rain, allowing yourself to embrace it and strive into suffering. For the bus song, the endpoint is simply death. And the song that we just listened to shows the consequences of riding the bus. There are multiple other songs with other endpoints that we simply can't cover. But the fact of the matter is, there can only be one endpoint for Pusu to choose. Not all of his songs are a part of this web of different endings, however. He's written other songs about real stories such as Hachiko, the dog that eternally waited for his owner despite the owner being dead. And it has a statue commemorated for it in Shibuya. There's actually another song that tells a story about this group of teenagers that all don't have a home, and they all come together in one spot. Okay, I think this is the absolutely most sick part of the entire portion. This is the underkids in Tokyo. I'm at Shinjuku, Tokyo, and this is the home of the Toyoko kids. Generally, these kids are all underage and have been cornered into working shady jobs, whether that's sex services, drug dealing, even manslaughter. Anything just to make enough money for the next day. So basically, the police have forced them all to gather in this one spot. They're all addicted to cheap prescription drugs, alcohol, cigarettes, and despite being underage, they have easy access to this stuff. They openly break the law, but all the police can really do about it is just try to send them home, and they just come right back. But as of July 27, 2022, these underage kids now have a song written by them, by none other than Pusu. He wrote this song under the character that he was one of the Toyoko kids himself, and this is the result. The more I let my aspirations run free, the more they consume me. I have no choice but to work even more today. I have some value to you, don't I? Please come to see me more. But you know what? Even if I were the one to give you money, there's no way you will ever decide to meet my eyes. The entire story of Under Kids is about a Toyoko girl that seeks value and love in this world, but falls short of finding its true meaning due to the nature of their position. She knows that no matter how hard she tries, everyone will just look down on her. Might as well be happy and feel that love in the moment, even if the emotion's a total lie. I was told that hell suits me because I don't have wings, by someone's laughter which makes my ear hurt. Why don't I at least have fun right now? In the future, I'll be finished with this country. The song also seems to connect to the Bus Girl song. The two characters could be very well related. They both wear dark purple one-piece clothing, a pink bow, ribbons that go in an X shape, and they both carry small backpacks. That's weird. They also share a similarly grim perspective of the world, feeling that they have no place on Earth and they deserve hell. This also ties into the fact that the Toyoko kids take large doses of prescription medicine with the risk and possibly intent to overdose. So what does this have to do with Pusu as a person? What association does he have with his Toyoko kid to the point where he's willing to write an entire song about one? Well, let me remind you that the victim of the stabbing is an underage girl. What if, just what if this girl he was dating was one of the girls from Toyoko? I mean, maybe by stabbing her, he felt as if in some way he was gonna liberate her from being soaked by the same rain he's been soaked by. Hear me out. He was willing to write both the characters from the bus song and Under Kids in such a similar way that this might just be the case. I mean, who would somebody like Pusu find to be a better partner than another person that has a broken soul and is outcasted by society much the same way as him? Of course, this is all just speculation. I could be just throwing this out of nowhere, but the fact that it's possible is just nauseating. It already takes a sick person to date a teenager as a 30-year-old. To stab her obviously makes it much worse, but to do all of this after writing an entire song about the struggles of a teenager in Japan actually makes my head spin. I mean, he writes an entire song bringing attention to an extreme societal issue and then he just tramples on it. I mean, I seriously cannot process how twisted this guy is. I played rhythm games to his songs and they're some of the best songs in the game. While a lot of this video is speculation, we do know one thing for a fact. He wrote an entire song about minors suffering on the streets, and then 2 years later, he dated and stabbed one. And just to imagine that all of this is planned is just disgusting. And suddenly, over a year after this song, everything started to unfold. November 12th, 2023, the group announced a hiatus. This came as a massive shock to everybody because they're in the midst of announcing tours, concerts, CDs, piano collections, and other long-awaited releases that millions of fans have been anticipating. Here is a tweet announcing him terminating his contract that he signed with TUYU. This is sudden, but I decided to terminate my contract with Pony Canyon, where I signed at TUYU. It's because I'm a scumbag. Even without working, I have gotten to the point where I can still receive a lot of money. So I've started buying whatever I wanted, doing as I pleased, and was dominated by impure desires. I put writing my songs, my bandmates, and my supporters all in the back burner. I drove a luxury car, bought branded items every day, and only thought about having fun with women and counting money. I am authentically a scumbag. I don't deserve the title of the creator. Please just kill me. He then continued a long series of tweets in the form of a mental breakdown, saying that he's become somebody else that he doesn't even recognize. This breakdown goes on until December 2nd, and then on December 31st, he said, "Next year, a true revolution will come. 2023 is for my rotten soul. It was the hell that would bring this revolution. I managed to climb out safely and was once again at the starting point. I won't ask for your cooperation. I'll do as I please, but still, the rain falls." A few months after posting his mental breakdown on Twitter, the final song of TUYU was released on April 13th called "It Rains Nevertheless." With the release of this song, one of the members of TUYU, Middle, announces their graduation from this group, and it seems like everything is coming to an end. And with that, Pusu finally unleashes it all. Music, die, 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 die. Music is dead. I have never finished a song before, even though it's supposed to be the one thing I like about this world. No matter how much I work, I keep getting caught up in new things. I keep everybody around me waiting. My head feels like it's about to explode, but I still can't finish it. Die. Now let's listen to Pusu's final message. It rains nevertheless. School bell rings. It's noisy, isn't it, my underclassmen? I forgot my umbrella. Oh well, but it still rains, doesn't it? I'm used to getting wet, singing a song of sorrow, embraced by the wind, frightened. I can't continue. All I do is cry, but nothing will ever change. It's so frustrating, but it still rains, doesn't it? The sun will soon be up. The sun is rising in the shape of you, so grand. You can't lose. If you beg so hard yet you can't reach me, then grab it with your own hands. Love, dreams, bonds, I'll make the world smile. I'll do my best to make the world 7 colors. These lyrics are heavy. The lyrics reveal so much more than this video can ever hope to cover, and this is only a small section of the song too. But to summarize, it reveals what route they chose. Pusu only got to choose one ending, so he chose the ending where the rain's going to fall anyway. He won't be able to take his own life, but instead he'll have to be stuck in the rain. And just by staying alive, there's still that slight possibility of the sun coming up. So at the end, he decides he's going to try to make the world 7 colors. Those 7 colors being the rainbow that would come after the rain. So now that we've seen what could potentially be him writing his prophecy into his lyrics, let's talk about what happened 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, he posted a tweet of a birthday cake with the number 30 on it in the form of candles, but little did we know that this would be his final tweet. 1 week later, a news article was posted saying that a teenage girl was stabbed in an apartment in Nagano by a 30-year-old man. When the police arrived at the scene, the girl was still conscious with a stab wound in the left side of her chest. She was then rushed to the hospital, and Pusu was placed under arrest. The story that Pusu tells is that she was asleep, and he stabbed her with a kitchen knife in his apartment. He says, "I wanted to stab her and then plan on taking my own life. But instead, he ended up calling the police, unable to follow through his plan to take his own life. As far as I know today, the teenage girl is still alive, but TUYU seems to be done for good." On June 8th, the group officially disbanded. Everything they've been working on came to a full stop. The other 2 members were in complete shock. Mito wrote, "There's nothing more sad than suddenly not being able to be proud of something you've dedicated your life to. It's frustrating." All TUYU songs will be completely wiped from anything they ever associated with. Osu, Chunithin, Mai Mai, Karaoke, Project Sekai. You name it, they want nothing to do with this band anymore. While this video is 100% speculation and it skips over a lot of things, it really feels like Pusu was somewhat intentional with the way things unfolded. And it should be made very clear that this guy deserves his own personal space in hell. As a fan of TUYU, I just feel betrayed. I mean, he's done horrible things, and I'm sure more will be exposed about him as time goes on. And honestly, the worst part about it is just how incredible the music is. It really just makes you question, like, how are we supposed to separate art from the artist? In fact, I only think this music is so great just because of how much unique and intense emotion went into it. I mean, of course, like, companies have some responsibility to never associate with the song again, but should we as listeners do the same thing? How do we celebrate the quality of his music without celebrating his illness? Because ultimately, they are one and the same. I just wish he was guided in a different direction before all this went down, because he could have totally become something different than what he is. But at the end of the day, we listened to an artist called Rainy Season, where their first song started in rain and their last song ended in it. And it's just crazy to think that maybe the one thing that kept Pusu from taking his own life were his own words. If there really was an endpoint, if I only had one wish granted, could I go down into the world once again and start all over again? If there really was no endpoint, I will be like this forever. I wonder if this is what Pusu is currently thinking. But regardless, goodbye to you. One day, we'll all see you on the bus, headed to the other world.